What can we expect in the future, maybe in 12 to 18 months? Am I getting in with no driver?
Yeah, and I think that Uber is probably perhaps the largest beneficiary of Tesla's just brand perception decline.
Because you know the narrative that was out there in the first quarter, as there was the backlash against Tesla, there were people saying, well, they're going to go over to Rivian. Has that not happened?
All that and more. So let's get to it. Tesla stock is up in the pre-market a little over 1.25%, currently sitting at $278.90. We've got some Tesla adjacent news to cover. We're talking Uber, we're talking Rivian. One already knows this ain't as easy as Tesla makes it look. The other, it's about to around and find out.
The Robotaxi picture, how important is it, and how soon? Because it's my understanding, I mean, we've got these autonomous vehicles going as taxis in certain places. I don't know if they represent Uber or it's just tests happening. What can we expect in the future, maybe in 12 to 18 months? Am I getting in with no driver?
Yeah, absolutely. You're already starting to see that play out today. You have Los Angeles, you have Austin, you have a lot of geographies in the US. That now today it's very small scale. You're kind of talking 0.5% of ride-sharing rides happen via Robotaxi, but that's only going to increase over time. And this is really the big debate on the stock today: is Robotaxi an opportunity or is it a threat for Uber? Now we think it kind of fits in both categories. If you look at it as an opportunity, Robotaxi allows Uber to lower the cost of a ride from roughly $4 today to $1 or even less going out into the future. And this, of course, allows them to compete with public transport, car ownership, and massively expands their TAM. You can imagine Uber growing very strongly over decades as this starts to play out. But of course, the risk is that it opens up the market to some of these new entrants like Waymo, like Tesla. So far, as I mentioned, the company's been able to navigate that risk very well, partnering with leading robotaxi companies. And the benefit for Uber is it gets access to this technology. The benefit for the robotaxi companies, they get access to Uber's scale, Uber's customer base. It can scale the technology without having to invest massively in terms of ramping this technology.
Uber is definitely going to do what they've got to do to try to maintain this market share of ride hail. Unfortunately, they don't have their own technology. They're going to be dependent on other individuals. Luckily for Uber, these other potential autonomous ride hail solutions, WeRide, Waymo, they don't have that ability to scale. So yeah, partnering with Uber kind of feels like a no-brainer. Hitch a ride with the already existing consumer base of Uber, but with Tesla's history of vertical integration, something tells me they're not going to need Uber at all.
The big unknown and big risk today is Tesla. And we know how Elon likes to approach things. He'll go with a Tesla first approach. And we see Tesla as one that could potentially scale without Uber. So they're launching in Austin in a couple of months, and we need to see how the reception of that product is. But largely an opportunity with a bit of a threat there, right, is how I'd frame that.
Yeah, and I think that Uber is probably perhaps the largest beneficiary of Tesla's just brand perception decline, because we used to say, okay, well, why would someone need Uber if they can just call a Robotaxi? But now we're saying, wait a minute, maybe Tesla does need Uber. Maybe, any vehicle, any autonomous vehicle can tap into Uber's ever-growing network of consumers that are already used to using its products. And so, we know that Uber is expanding. I think it just announced a partnership with WeRide. And so it's expanding its own autonomous exposure in the Middle East and in Asia. And we know that it already has rides available via Waymo in Austin, I believe, and expanding to Atlanta soon if it's not already there. So, I think that is the next big growth catalyst for Uber if it can pull this off, because it's certainly building up its platform and building a very large consumer base who is getting very used to logging on and ordering food or, ordering that ride to or from the airport. And so Uber is definitely in a much better spot now than it was, say, last October.
Nothing will dispel Tesla's perceived brand damage faster than dropping the habitual Uber rider's monthly bill in half. An all-vision approach that seemed unlikely but is now more probable than ever as Tesla plans to unveil this Robotaxi in June. No driver, cheaper sensors. Something tells me it's going to be a cheaper ride than anything on the market. When Tesla starts to scale to the entire state of Texas, I think it will dawn on Uber quite quickly that it might be curtains.
You beat the expectations, a smaller than expected loss for the quarter. But let's be honest, your guidance is nothing to write home about. You're going to be spending more in terms of CapEx, and you're cutting your delivery guidance. It was 46 to 51,000 vehicles. Now you're saying it's going to be 40 to 46,000 vehicles. What's changed in just a month since you gave your last guidance?
If I were RJ, I'd probably start with saying, this ain't as easy as Tesla makes it look. But something tells me that's not going to happen.
The Q1 for us was important as our second consecutive quarter of having a positive gross margin, $260 million of positive gross margin, which is great. But as you said, there's a lot of uncertainty, and both in terms of our cost structure on CapEx, that's equipment we're buying. With the trade and tariff situation, we are reflecting more CapEx spend for the same content. And we're also looking at the overall consumer sentiment just more broadly in conjunction with what's happening around trade.
I want to talk about consumer sentiment. Are you telling me that basically people are saying, overall, I'm pulling back in terms of vehicle purchases or with electric vehicles? Because you know the narrative that was out there in the first quarter, as there was the backlash against Tesla, there were people saying, well, they're going to go over to Rivian. Mm-hmm. Has that not happened?
Yeah. Well, look, we have today on the consumer side, we have really just our flagship product, the R1S and the R1T. They are doing really well. The consumers love the product. It's the best-selling premium electric vehicle over $70,000 in the entire United States, and it's the best-selling premium SUV over $70,000, electric or non-electric, in California. So the product is doing well. The challenge is, as consumers start to be more price sensitive, it's only our flagship product. And so we really need our R2 product in the market. Starts at $45,000. It's incredible. I can't wait for it to be out. But as we see more price sensitivity on the buyer side, having that lower price product is going to be really important for us.
I'm definitely looking forward to the R2. I'm never going to buy it. It doesn't have FSD. But I do want to see how fast they're able to produce it. What is it going to do for their average selling price? And will they continue to be losing boatloads of money? Is this thing going to be cost effective? Right now, our EV startups over here in the United States are incinerating money. If the reality is that consumers are opting not to purchase Teslas and then go to Lucid or Rivian, that might be the fastest way to bankrupt both of those companies. That is, until they can start making money on every vehicle that they sell. For Rivian, that's hopefully the R2. And I think Lucid has a I don't know what the Lucid's doing. But they're going to need something similar to Tesla's Model 3 and Y that's going to make them more than just profitable, increase their volumes, and start benefiting from economies of scale. But it just seems like they are stuck. The macroeconomic conditions can't be helping.
Given that price sensitivity from consumers, what does that mean in terms of your ability to push on or push out price if you do see higher prices internally, higher costs internally amid trade and tariff dynamics?
Yeah, there's a lot of knobs we can turn. So we have our product mix. So if you do the math on our quarter, you'll see the average selling price for all of our vehicles, both our consumer-focused products, the R1 product line, and our EDV, is over $88,000. So we have a very high ASP.
God damn, that's kind of high. For context, Tesla's in the 40,000 range, and average selling price that's damn near half of what Rivian is doing. At crazy volumes compared to Rivian. They're talking about a guidance in 2025 of less than 50,000. Tesla's doing that kind of in a week. Like I said before, this ain't as easy as Tesla makes it look.
We have mix shifts. We can we can build more of our largest battery pack, what we call our max pack. We can shift to different trim configurations. So that's one of the big knobs we're looking to turn. Of course, there's also vehicle financing offerings that are in place, and what we do in terms of leasing and in terms of overall vehicle financing. And those are the two big variables we have to play with. And what we're doing as a company, as leadership team, is we're very focused on profitability. And so when it comes to making a trade-off between volume and selling more units versus driving towards increased profitability, we're going to err on driving towards profitability, recognizing that this significant volume step up for us comes with R2.
In conclusion, if Tesla is going to enter the industry, everybody else is going to have a fitful night of rest. Those building EVs, yeah, they have nightmares about Tesla. Uber, Lyft, yeah, you're about to find out why Legacy Auto and some of these startups here in the United States envy Tesla's vertical integration, their mobility, their ability to just make the impossible possible, running laps around the perceived competition while they're just sitting at the starting line. It'll be slow at first, Uber, but don't blink. You might miss it. That's all I've got for you today. Be easy. Peace.